Yeah, well, her husband, I think she's still work, and so she was really worried.
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Plymouth Community School Board for February 6, 2018. If you'll join us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thank you for attending tonight. Our first item is to set the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections?
We just had a resignation, a couple of ECA appointments, and then looks like 2 last-minute student activity requests.
With those additions, entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So much.
Motion and second. Any questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is set. Are there members of the audience that would like to address agenda items this evening? We'll have another opportunity at the end if the spirit catches you. Our first item then on the agenda is under section 2 is focus on learning. This evening we have Jefferson Elementary.
Yes, tonight we have Mrs. Mills with some of her Jefferson Jets. They are the 4th grade robotics team, and Riverside just recently presented on robotics, but Jefferson is going to share a little bit about the STEM side of robotics, not the competitive side.
Again, like Brooke said, I'm Angie Mills, principal at Jefferson, and I'm very proud to introduce our group today. They named themselves the Jet iRobots because we're the Jefferson Jets. So they design their own t-shirts each year and take a lot of pride in what they've been able to work together as a team to produce and to go through the engineering process. So they're excited to share with you today and share one of the videos that they created for their STEM project around the area of drones. So that was something that was interesting to them, and they're excited to share that with you. Carol, if you don't mind, I'm going to scooch you up just a little bit because I know they're going to be on a big line. And since we got a little space here, if that works for you, that way I can get them through. That works perfect. Also joining them today is Jen Schreiber. She is our ILA and team coach. And she will be also talking a little bit today, and she's taken a lot of ownership with helping them get ready today. So I'm very pleased with all she's done and excited to share with you today. So we're going to start off with introductions.
My name is Jacob Welvers. My name is Chance Miller. My name is Brandon Howard. My name is Freddie Cameron. My name is Ethan O'Leary. My name is Brandon Anton. My name is John Rich. My name is Luke Bucky. My name is Peyton Miller. Each year, Vets picks a STEM project for teams to research as part of the competition. We have to do a 4-minute presentation and answer questions about our project to the judges. This year, Vets shows technology. We need to show how robot technology is used in the workforce. Our team decided to research drones for our STEM projects. At first, we thought drones were just for playing and spying on people. We set up an interview with Officer Dealey and a land surveyor that used drones and learned lots.
Would you want to drop climb to the top of the water tower? This is why we have drones, so you don't have to rush to the left to understand the mission.
We learn many different ways that drones help people in their daily jobs. We decided to do a news broadcast as our 4-minute presentation.
If you join us on the screen, we're going to share the news broadcast with you.
I'm a 4th grade student at Jefferson Elementary. I learned that a drone follows the 3 laws of robotics. After talking to Officer Jolie, I found out that a drone is used to help keep a police officer from blowing
safety reasons, the engineer designed the drone to fly back to its owner if the batteries get low. Engineers use ethics to keep the people who fly the drone safe. I am the fourth grade student at Jefferson. I learned that a drone can keep officers from doing dangerous jobs. Officer Dewey told us that instead of sending officers into the active gunfight, they can put ammo on the drone and fire it into the officers who use it. These are the 3 laws of robotics.
The robot may not injure a human or allow a human being from the harm.
A robot must obey or given by a human being where such orders conflict with the first law.
A robot must protect its own existence
As long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
We are the Jedi robots. My name is Bannon Howard.
My name is Peyton Miller. My name is Nancy. My name is Jacob Walters.
Ethan?
Next comes a new game every year. It is our challenge to build a robot that will score the most points by using the engineering process tool to build a robot. Think, do, test, repeat. The thinking was a lot easier than the doing. After several weeks of building and rebuilding our robots, we could really score well. The next challenge was to write the code for the autonomous. We had to get the robot to score the most points without using the controller. This took a lot of the test and repeat process. My job was to document everything in my journal that we did. I would take pictures of everyone in what they did. I hope you enjoyed our Jedi robotics presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for our robot experts here? So I saw at the end of the video the tagline, I guess, if you will, that you're future engineers. How many want to be future engineers? That's pretty cool. Well, I thought there was another hand there.
Can you tell them one thing that you learned from the land surveyor? What is something that you learned about drones? Yes, Sophie?
That would be like 100 feet away.
400 feet in the air. I don't think we have any homes or buildings 400 feet in the air. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to share today. I know they've worked very hard this year, not only with their STEM project that they present at each competition, but also on their robotics project. So it gives them an opportunity to present what they're learning, and they were excited to share that with you today too. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And thank you to the parents and families that attended here this evening. Support is important. Certainly, you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. I suspect you may have better things you want to do. So feel free to leave. But again, thank you for presenting this evening. It was very interesting. Good job. Our next item will be the consent agenda under section 3. Are there any elements of the consent agenda a board member would like to pull and have it considered separately? Hearing none, I entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to our business transactions for this evening. Item 4.1, consider PHS History Department request for overseas European history tour.
Well, usually field trip requests fall under consent agenda. This one's a bigger trip though, and so I like for this to be separate and to offer Mr. Wolf an opportunity to present this request. Mr. Wolf? Oh, I'm sorry. This is
And Ms.
Sorry, that's fine.
I'm going to give a few things to you guys.
Thank you.
Yep. There we go.
Good.
All right, well, first off, thank you for allowing us to come and talk to you about, I saw you a few months back as we presented on our past trip. This past summer, we took a trip for 2 weeks to Europe with 19 students. And our goal when we kind of started this was to possibly do it every 2 years, to give every student a chance in high school to attend one of these trips with us. And I'm just going to kind of go through this with you. We called ourselves the Adventurous Pilgrims. I think if you remember that, we had some stuff on the last one. But I just want to kind of go over, Melissa and I, we sat down a few years back to kind of start thinking about this. We had a goal, and that was to give every student that attends PHS an opportunity to see firsthand the curriculum taught in both world history and U.S. My schedule is dominated by world history. I do have some U.S. She has U.S. history and government, so kind of combined, we hit both platforms there. And the trip we went on, and then the trip we're hoping to go on, it is kind of cross-curriculum, both world history and U.S., and I'll kind of get into that when we get there. So our vision then was to take a trip every 2 years. So these trips would take place during the summer or the odd number of years. So we went last year in 17, so it just kind of fell in an odd number of years. That's what we wanted to do. And really, I mean, the purpose and the why we feel is our role as educators is to provide students with experiences that last a lifetime, whether that be in our own classrooms or abroad. Students' lives are shaped every day, and to us, this may be the only opportunity some students get to go or travel abroad in their lifetime. So we thought it could begin a passion for learning and a love for travel by just being or having an opportunity to go on one of these with us. The trips, our plan then is to kind of rotate trips. This last one we went on in 2017, as you see there, was a World War II in the Western Front, 14 days. We had 19 travelers. This trip, you also have the agenda of the trip that we're going to go on, or would like to go on in July of 2019, is an AP European History Tour. Similar to the last one we went on, but we go to Italy instead of Germany on this one. And we did have a preliminary meeting, probably, 3 weeks ago? Roughly, a call-out meeting, 3 weeks ago. And right now we have about 50 potential travelers that are interested in going on the trip. Really was, honestly, my goal was about 30 potential travelers, and it kind of ballooned to 50 that are interested in going with us. I think we had some students that spoke that went on the last trip that kind of were here and kind of generated a lot of enthusiasm for the trip. And again, we were on social media last time, through Facebook and through Twitter, newspaper, Instagram. I was on the radio 2 or 3 times. So I think the excitement was out there once we did present that we possibly could go on another trip. One thing I do want to touch on is we really felt that when we went on the last trip, and I think I talked about this, when we presented, that our kids were not just educationally prepared to go, but also the safeties of travel and all that stuff that you can see there, those are the dates that we met with them prior to going on the trip, where we went over and covered really everything we could. My job is to bring everyone home and keep them as safe as I can while we are abroad. And so I kind of went over the worst case scenarios with every student and parent that was in the meetings with us. Not to scare them, but to realize that we are abroad and traveling, and to be safe and aware of what's going on around you and so forth. And after getting back, I think Melissa would attest that we went with 3 other groups from California, Maryland, and New Jersey. And I guess it's biased, but I thought our kids were by far the best.
We told our
kids.
British tour guide, the Midwest is
Yeah.
where it's at. That's where all the people are from.
They were attentive, and just, and again, we try to do our best to prepare them, not just educationally, by teaching them some of the places that they had gone, or we were going to go, but also preparing them for what they might expect and how to pack and all those questions that arose. And then we plan on doing the same if we were able to go on this one.
Probably even more meetings, because we know more what to.
Yeah, I think, we were prepared and are prepared for maybe some things that we learned on this last trip. And our overall vision would possibly be to start a travel club, like Interact Club or something like that, where we could have not just kids that attend the trip, but kids that are interested in learning about places abroad that they may go do some things.
We talked about the Holocaust Museum in Terre Haute, like even just weekend things that we could do as a club, potentially as a future goal. Nothing like soon, but things closer.
Yeah, kind of, some museums or something close. The other thing I gave you is the potential trip that we would like to take in the summer of 2019. As I said, it is similar to our last one. This one is a little more artsy. The last one was really all World War II. Every museum we went to was a World War II museum. This one, we will go to London for 2 days. We will then travel to Normandy for 2 days. And actually, this 2019 marks the 75th anniversary of Normandy, the invasion of Normandy. The tour company tried to get me to go in June to be there.
I tried to get him to change it to June too, but baseball.
We would be there on D-Day, on June 6th. And, but yeah, we had to push it to July. But then we do go to Paris again. But this time we go to Florence and Rome. So we do hit the Vatican, we hit St. Peter's Basilica, the Colosseum, and those things. We did not do the extension this time to save some money for the students as well. So we did not do the 2-day extension. So we will be in Europe for 12 days this time. Last time it was 14. But everything else is pretty much the same. We are with the same tour company. We were very happy with everything that they provided us, and the safety, and the tour guide that was with us the whole time. And so we just again wanted to give kids an opportunity to go with us. We had a fantastic time. It's really neat to still see kids in the hallway that I haven't had in class but went on the trip with us, and just the connections we made with them. And if we are able to go, that is one thing that is going to be different this time, is with 50 potential travelers, we will not be traveling with anyone else. We would have our entire bus of all Plymouth members. So last time, like I said, we had a group of 50, but there was 19 of us, 11 of one group, 10 of another, and 10 of another. The lady that I dealt with through EF, I think her jaw hit the ground when I told her we could potentially have our own bus of just people from Plymouth Community Schools. So we're excited that this could be an opportunity to give kids, and we appreciate being able to present to you. Any questions or anything?
Would you, out of the 50, I'm assuming that maybe I should, that there's no repeat travelers?
We do have repeat travelers. We actually have 3 repeat travelers.
And some younger siblings of kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a mom, dad, and daughter that are going again. I went last time, that are going again on this trip. So there is a chance, if it works out right, where you go in your freshman year, you could attend both trips if you want to. I mean, it just works out that way. It falls on the right year.
So with 50, how many chaperones or adults?
We would have 7 chaperones that went with us.
And there's right now 4 or 5 parents, maybe 4 parents.
There are 4 parents that have potentially shown interest in joining, but there would be 7 full chaperones that go with us.
And one of those is required to be the president of the school board.
It might be the fine print. I'd have to look into
I
it.
don't see it here.
Laura, from the perspective of a parent who had a daughter that went on the last trip, any comments?
Well, I can tell you that my next oldest is going. That's how much of a good time my oldest had and how much confidence I have in these two watching over my children.
We were really humbled by the amount of students that were interested. I think that offering it every 2 years is something that helps parents. It is expensive, and not every family can afford to go to Europe. But a lot of families and kids can kind of scrounge it up, and if they know and they can plan ahead, they can make it happen for their kids. And so that was, something that a lot of the kids did sacrifice to go the last time, and their parents sacrificed for them, and I think they appreciated it. We had a lot of great students with us.
So did you have them, or just maybe it's just osmosis, but was there any formal reporting back to the classrooms from these students that went, or this is what we saw, kind of sharing their experiences to those that couldn't?
We did at the meeting, so our call-out meeting, but not specifically have we had them talk to a class about anything. I would say this tomorrow is our lesson on D-Day, and I'm about as excited as I can be about presenting the information that I had brought back and sharing pictures and the experiences that we have. So we're right in that unit right now in U.S. history. But no, we have not specifically had a student present, but they did at the meeting. We had them stand up and share their thoughts and memories of the trip, yes.
Well, I think the presentation that you gave, the kids gave us, it was very impressive, very educational and rewarding. And I still got my little while.
I do too.
I'll cherish that.
Well, that's our number one goal, is to not, this isn't just a trip to go on, but we want kids to come back and learn something. And I felt, I really did, when we went, it kind of was humbling to me to see how engaged our kids were when we had a guided tour of a certain spot, or, just to see the looks on kids' faces when we show up in the Eiffel Towers in front of them, and they can have that with them for the rest of their lives, so.
I would so move that we approve this trip for 2019.
I second that.
Motion is second. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Equally exciting, 4.2 is adopting the calendar for the 2018-2019.
Stole my line. Well, the vocational cooperative begins this process in creating a template, and then we fit it to kind of fall into what our needs and practice have been. We discuss it with PEA at the district and building levels, and that work comes up with this product before you. So there's some notable adjustments, if you will. It is a week later start than what we had this year. Past few years, it still falls in line with the balanced calendar concept. It's just a matter of how the month of August falls in the days of the week. So students will still end before the end of May. There'll be a teacher day the first Monday in June, but still has a week of fall break, 2 weeks of spring break. So it's presented to you this evening for your consideration and approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the calendar for 2018-19. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. 4.3, adopt transfer student debt release for 2018-2019.
This is an annual thing. It's in accordance with the state statute and policies that we adopt a deadline by which we accept transfer out for students, as well as how many students we would accept prior to neutral allowance. So we extend that deadline to the end of the school year next year, and you'll see the numbers that we would say cap, but again, before we move to a lottery system. So presented to you this evening for your approval.
Make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 4.4, consider internet service provider. What is this internet I keep hearing about?
That's what I'm saying. I'll ask Bruce to present this agenda item to you this evening, as he's been the one coordinating.
Did you say, I gotta run my own presentation. I mean, really, so I made it short, it's one page. So yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to present this to you before, quite simply because as long as I've been in this position, we have been covered by a state-approved contract from the Department of Education. So we have not had to bid this process before, but the DOE has decided that their termination of that contract is June this year. And so they're basically opening it up to corporations to bid. And what I think you'll see is that is going to prove very positive for us implementing these rules. So we follow mandated bid process from the FCC, basically, is who kind of organizes and mandates the ERIC program, if you're not familiar with that. So we had 4 qualified bidders. Our bid package actually went out in November, and we had 4 qualified bid companies that are listed there at the top. Basically, we kind of split it up into 2 different areas. So we have our internet, which is our bandwidth, our pipe, and then we have fiber connecting all of our buildings, and that's considered the WAN or the wide area network. So those 2 pieces together are basically a sum total there of our total monthly cost, and then with our free and reduced population, we actually get an 80% rebate or discount on that service. So what we actually pay would be that last column there. My recommendation, if you jump down there in the middle, shows you what our current provider is. Our current provider is ENA. Right now, monthly, we're spending about $5,520 for our internet, pipe, and building connectivity. My recommendation would be we go with Windstream. You see there a much cheaper price of $1,791 a month. So multiplied by 12, we're looking at about an annual savings of about $44,000 with this new process. So very positive.
Tremendous.
I'll entertain any questions if you have any. If you want to talk about E-rate, it's very boring, but I can do that. Well, this is intimidating to ask questions you know very little about. That's never stopped me.
It's good for me.
It'll make you look good.
Yeah.
So I just have to ask, so no reduction in quality or service?
No, actually, the services there and the cost of you there are the exact same level of services that we have right now. So we have 1 gigabyte, which is about this big, of internet, and those numbers are reflected in that. Yeah, maybe that big.
So in terms of infrastructure, no adjustments necessary?
No adjustments whatsoever. We've got all of the infrastructure already in place, the services that we're doing, so it'll, as literally as I can say, just unplugging this one and plugging this one in. And we're good.
Sometimes you get a monthly savings with the
Yeah.
upfront, we got to change this. or
Right,
something.
right. The only thing that I don't have identified yet is there'll be minimal charges of like, I think one of them was $120 to get a block of public IP addresses to use for the corporation. Right now, we're using about 64 public IP addresses. So that'll be a one-time fee of $120, so I didn't include it.
One, maybe 2 more stupid questions. So Windstream is where, in terms of support?
Yeah, so they're headquartered out of New York. They've got a lot of coverage in Indiana with their own fiber network, and the benefit there is they actually own their own fiber. They don't lease it from other companies. Really, right now, I can tell you, we're actually using Windstream right now. So our provider is ENA, but they've subleased their fiber with Windstream. So that's why I said it's about as easy as we can get, because we already have all the infrastructure and all the fiber in place. It's just basically that nothing will make.
Some, the old adage, it seems too good to be true, so.
Absolutely.
It's quite a savings.
Yeah.
It's great.
I would move that we go with the recommendation of Windstream.
I second that.
A motion and a second, any other questions? Is this a one-year contract?
It'll be a 3-year contract for the egress, or for the internet egress. It's actually a 5-year contract for the WAN. So it's 2 separate.
Are there escalators, or this is our cost?
That's it.
Okay. Any other questions? Great, thank you very much. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. 4.5, legislation.
Yes, kind of the midway point of the legislative session here this week, if you will. Try to summarize all that's happening. It's always a wonderful challenge, but so there were some funding shortfalls in the last session with respect to the number of students that fell into the funding formula. There were a couple bills in the House and Senate that are moving that will remedy that, or try to remedy that this year to at least get it close to or at the level of the formula that was passed last year. Bill going through the House right now with respect to the discretionary appeals board and the school financial management, keeping a close eye on. If you recall, last year there was a House Enrolled Act 1009 that changes the funds moving forward, so there's been some cleanup bills, little idiosyncrasies and some bigger ones that were caught that we hopefully remedy as we move into that budgeting process next year. The state board has passed graduation pathways, rules, if you will, and essentially it's indicating that students will be able to graduate not just by completing high school diploma requirements, but also demonstrating employability skills either through project-based, service-based, or work-based learning, as well as demonstrating some post-secondary competencies that will include things such as an honors diploma, college-ready benchmarks on ACT or SAT, CTE certification, or concentrator, AP or dual credit earnings, where we can develop other local pathways. The concept has been approved. Those details are still being worked on now by that panel that initially came up with that. As such, there's a bill on high school diploma and working to have essentially one diploma instead of the several that we have now with designations. So you need a high school diploma with a general designation, with a Core 40 designation, Core 40 academic honors, or Core 40 technical honors designation. So there's 2 bills, one in the House and the Senate. The Senate one's kind of looking more like the House one now, and we anticipate that one moving through. So there was a school calendar bill. That one got stuck in committee and never came out. Cursive writing was in the Senate, moved to the House, got a first reading today. I have not seen the results of that. There was a sunscreen bill. So now, out of the Senate, allows students to possess a new sunscreen without a prescription at school. And then,
We can have subscription for, I mean, a prescription for sunscreen.
more importantly, computer science is certainly an initiative coming out of the governor's office and the Department of Ed, and there's a bill indicating that by 2021, high schools need to offer at least one semester of computer science, and there's some professional development expectations tied to that as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. The summary at this time. Does it stand out?
Laura, I know you follow, anything you wanted to add, or?
Most of the attention has been on the graduation pathways and also the changing of how they're going to calculate the school letter grade, which is going to see some major changes, including eventually graduation rates being about 50%, I believe, of that school letter grade. And less of an emphasis on how many students are taking and passing, I believe, AP dual credit courses.
So graduation rate will hold more weight. They've taken that part out because those AP dual credit earnings fall into graduation requirements. logic, I think, that was utilized in doing that. Agree or disagree at that point in time. But yes, the accountability models are also shifting. There'll also be for high school an on-track indicator that will be 10%, so the number of freshmen who have to earn so many credits and or have grades above passing, 10% of their overall accountability for high school district. And then we'll shift to 15%. Lots happening. Thank you for bringing that up.
Any questions? Thank you. 4.6, our project update.
Yeah, so I have asked Brian to be here tonight from Barton Cove Vilma. It's been a team effort up to this point, and certainly it's not done, but to show some layouts and renderings, I asked Brian to be here to go through those and allowing the opportunity to ask some questions as well.
I'll refer quite a bit to the slides here. A lot of the detail may not look at this level much different than what Mr. Hartley presented to the board previously. We're kind of into the weeds of the project from our standpoint. With the timeline that we're following, we're going through mechanical, electrical design, placing outlets, and things like that. So things that don't show up on this scale of drawing, but just to show you kind of where we are layout-wise. Sometimes the more times you see it, you notice details that you may not have noticed before. So the first drawing here is a site plan, and just to get you oriented, Gibson Street running along the north side of the site, Liberty Street here, and then LaPorte. Try not to laser anybody in the eye here. Along the south end of the site. So
We have rules against that, right?
Put your sunscreen on. So the existing building occupies primarily this block of space. You can see the end result, the intention of preserving that oldest portion of that existing building, and then creating parking to be shared between those two buildings in kind of open space there. There's a parent drop-off drive that connects from Liberty Street as a one-way route around to Gibson. It can be opened up to this lot for events. It can be opened to this back lot for events, but 90% of the time that would be your parent drop-off lane and the two major entrances, well, exit from the gym and major entrance into the building at the west end. Then along the south side of the site, we have the bus drop-off area, if you will, that's also striped for event parking. It has entrance into a lobby space that we'll see when we move into the floor plans, and then a kind of visitors parking and drop off at a secure entryway. So during the school day, parents coming to drop things off, pick up students one at a time, things like that, can use that visitors entrance into the building. It's kind of a service area back here by where you'll see the kitchen, and then staff parking available down at the east end of the building, accessed off of the highway here. So that's the general site layout. Questions about that? Okay. This is the overall floor plan. Again, at this level of detail, and even the smaller plans that we'll show, you may not see a lot of differences from what you saw before, but as I talked about earlier, that parent drop-off drive would be down here at the west end of the building with access into a large hallway towards that lobby space, and then that bus drive is down here to access into the same lobby space. So students arriving in the morning have a kind of a large surge area to go to. There's access to the cafeteria for breakfast and things like that, right by the main office. So the building's kind of divided into three major sections: physical education and wellness section, with the gym being kind of the hub of that, surrounded by the support spaces. That lobby with access to public restrooms. At the core of the building's the main office and that secure entryway, music space, the cafeteria with a small stage and kitchen, and then that building support area kind of at that center core. And this T-shaped area down at this end is a two-story wing of the building with classrooms kind of stacked on 2 floors there. The next slide shows the second floor plan, so you can kind of see the open space to the gym below being taller than most other areas of the building. There's a fan room that serves the gym, the music rooms, the cafeteria, and the office, kind of another little core space there, and then the second floor of that classroom section. The next slides go into a little bit more level of detail, starting in the southeast corner of the academic wing. So we're kind of out of some of our presentation drawings that we've done as we've had staff meetings and meetings with the executive committee that we've been working with to design the building. And now we're kind of into our technical drawings, if you will. So this is kind of an example of that as we go through what's called Unit A. The organization is now more about how we set up these documents for the contractors to bid and then construct from, rather than kind of what people call pretty pictures in our office, and usually say, oh, Brian's making his pretty pictures. Well, now all the draftsmen are making the blueprints, so to speak. So you can see down in the corner here the overall plan of the building to give you a reference of where we're at. So we're in the southern part of that T. Most of our classroom wings are organized around our major core classes of a math room, a science classroom with a lab and some prep space, 2 humanities rooms kind of back to back here so that they can interact with each other. And then you'll see either, depending on where you're at in the building, an intervention room at the corner here, or on the upper level, those are foreign language rooms, Chinese and English as a second language rooms there. There's also common space here that kind of opens up to the core, so kind of like Widener School of Inquiry, we tried to create some spaces for the students to expand into and collaborate around the core of the building. But as you get back into the hallways, they're fairly traditional classroom corridor spaces. And at the east end of that T is where we have a lot of our special spaces. There's an ISS room here. There's an art room here with a small kiln room, agri-science room with an aquaponics component, and then classroom space next to it. On the next slide, kind of continue that theme of the specialty instruction spaces. There's the family and consumer science room, which is divided between kitchenettes and kind of seating and sewing instruction area. Large student restrooms at the center of both floors, along with an elevator to get between the 2 levels. This is a large stairway that also functions as kind of an open large group instruction area. So not only can you use the stairs to go between the 2 floor levels, but there's also tiered, see kind of the deep stairs here, tiered seating in between the stairways that face presentation space on the first floor. And then the TV studio and radio studio is at this end of that hub. Back to the north side, we have functional skills. I'll call it a suite of rooms because there's a classroom component, a kitchenette component that opens into that, laundry space, restroom and changing space, and then a sensory room that's shared between functional skills and the ED classroom here. So kind of a suite of spaces there with a lot going on and fairly. It's actually a pretty good sized area if you compare it to, a math classroom up here. So that's a nice feature of the building. There's staff support room here with restrooms, small workspace, space for the staff to also be able to collaborate, separate from the student collaboration areas. And then on the north side, it's kind of a mirror image of the configuration we talked about on the south end of the T. The next slide jumps back to the core space where we have choir, orchestra, and band rooms, and a lot of small, if you're familiar with those programs, a lot of small support areas like practice rooms, storage rooms, sheet music storage rooms, and things like that help support those programs. Access to another one of our fan rooms here, and then the office suite, administrative office suite. So there's the secure entry approach that you're familiar with at your other buildings. You have to enter the vestibule, pick up the phone, be buzzed into the office before you can have any other interaction with the rest of the building. We've kind of strategically put the SRO and some meeting space up front with the administrative offices kind of spread around the perimeter then, and bookended that with a staff workroom and lounge space there. The next slide keeps us moving through that core area where we have the dining space, the stage that's open to it here, and the kitchen and serving lines down at the south end. There's receiving space to get paper and other things in and out of the building, boiler room, electrical room, main custodial room, and then there's also a stagecrafts classroom. If you lost track of it, the music spaces are right up here, so the stagecrafts, the stage, so there's kind of a performance art core of the building there.
Just remind me and for the group, once the tables are out, chairs are in, approximate seating capacity for performance in there?
I think, depending on how tightly you want the row spaced, I think we had up to just over 500. If you're a little more relaxed with the spacing, I think you can still easily get 400 seats in there. Chairs, chair kind of by row configuration.
So if we've been to a performance at Lincoln in the auditorium now, which is a lovely auditorium, but oftentimes seating and the number of seats there creates a concern. Sometimes you have to turn people away just because of capacity and things like that. So this is a nice solution.
Let's see, on the next slide, the physical education wing. So we talked about that entrance from that bus area and event parking area to the south. You can see lobby space here where there's access to concessions. That lobby kind of extends through to the north end, so there's access to men's and women's restrooms, drinking fountains here, trophy cases here, so kind of a Hall of Fame feel in that lobby space. That also, when student traffic's coming and going in the morning, gives them some space to move around each other down at that end of the building. The gymnasium itself is kind of a field house style gym, if you will, where this is all open space. In the box that I'm drawing here, there's bleachers at one end, a larger set here that I think holds around 600. I have to get that exact number. A smaller set down here so that you could kind of stagger more major events or a whole student gathering versus smaller games and events down at the other end. That's a wood basketball floor that's got 2 main basketball courts, ability to have 3 practice volleyball courts running at the same time, or 2 competition volleyball floors. We can put a curtain down in between, and then a running track, 2-lane running track around the perimeter of that space then.
Floors will be hardwood.
It is hardwood within the within 3 feet of those basketball floors, and this drawing is a little bit stretched out left to right, but hardwood here, and then once you get outside of that hardwood border, a synthetic running surface with a little more give to it. All of that's supported with boys and girls athletic and physical education locker rooms on the south end. There's coaches' offices, a training space, laundry space, and some athletic storage space down at that side. So the next slide will take us across the main hall here to wrestling and multi-purpose space. We've set the ceiling in there fairly high, the structure fairly high, so that you could have a number of different activities going on in that space if the mats are moved out of the way. There's athletic storage space, then just opposite the gymnasium, some custodial support spaces, and then a fitness room and wellness instruction classroom, and then you see here that secure entrance again on the north side of the building. On the next slide, again, we're back to the second floor now on the south end of the T. These spaces are just like what you saw on the first floor through here, except, like I said earlier, this is Chinese, I believe, at this location now. And then in terms of specials on the second floor, there's a second staff workroom, kind of opposite where the other one was on the first floor. And then we move into the blended classroom, so blended math, 7th, 8th grade blended science, just copies essentially of what we had in the 7th and 8th grade rooms. On the next slide, this is actually a large fan room. The HVAC system in this building kind of relies on fan rooms to push the air out to classrooms, so that's why you see those kind of placed at thirds of the building. There's the blended humanities, 2 classrooms next to each other here, and then Project Lead the Way. We had the robot presentation earlier. As those kids move up into junior high, this would be that Project Lead the Way space where we have computer science and then a robotics aspect and then support space for that. Again, restrooms, elevator, and then stair at the center, and then that whole area kind of bookended by the media center, overlooking that large group instruction area and the stairway with some openings into that common area. There's also a common seating area here and here. There's stack space, your meeting tables, and the support space for the media center. And again, the north end of the T, it's kind of a duplicate of the south end of the T. Our next slide takes us outside, and again, not a lot of changes from the last presentation that you saw. We're just refining details and pushing parts and pieces around now at this stage, but we're looking from the northwest corner, so that drive that came down from Liberty and wraps around comes here to this entrance here, the wrestling room, the fitness rooms that we saw, the secure entrance off of Gibson, the office, and then that 2-story classroom wing in the background, taller cafeteria and stage in the background there, and that bus lot behind. On the next slide, we drop down to more of a walking human view from the street here, except you wouldn't have all the things in the foreground that you normally see. The building's very long, so you kind of lose the detail. You can see the scale figures out front there, so that's all accurate to scale. So again, looking from the north, we've got 2 stories of classrooms, office kind of down in front, secure entrance, and the athletic and wellness area of the building off to the west there. And the last slide here shows the view from kind of the Port Street side. This is actually a shallow basin that takes the drainage from this end of the site and moves it down to Liberty Street and then out into the city's outlet there. So the gymnasium, events entrance, cafeteria, and 2-story classroom down at the east end. That's my last slide. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Very impressive. Looks good.
It's been a good process. We've got a good team. It's becomes pretty monumental in a building of this size, but I think it's worked out pretty well so far. So
Looks good.
thank you.
Could I ask where the student lockers are?
Yeah. In most hallways, and the dimension markings on here throw this off a little bit, we have lockers spread out. They're really tiny in here. I can't remember. We tried to split them up. They're spread out along the hallways. And I'm trying to see if they're even actually turned on in this drawing. They're actually turned on, but they're spread out in banks, and we've tried to keep them all on either one side of the hallway or another, but they're distributed kind of throughout both ends of the T, and then down along the long side of the T here. But I don't think they're actually shown on this print yet.
My granddaughters go to a building in just in its second year in Warsaw. They can their lockers are this big. They can either put their coat in or their books, and so they don't wear coats. So that's why it's in my head about locker space and how big they are and where that.
They're bigger than
I think we have a number of students that are going to use that.
Well, it's been an amazing conversation. You brought up lockers. It's like, oh my goodness, lockers. Because we've had a lot of discussion on that topic and their actual use and everything else. But to try to plan for the future and at the same time meet the needs of students and families in the building, with the fact that we can get a reasonably sized locker and have the kids to utilize it.
Other questions for Brian?
Good job.
Looks good.
Thank you. How are we, timeline-wise? I think we're on our schedule, correct?
Yeah, we still are. We have some pretty near final documents here in the next couple of weeks to Skillman, who will then go through their final estimating phases. And by our March meeting, we hope to have the team move for authorization to release for bids. And then our April meeting.
I'll put my pen down so I'm not writing every answer, Brian. So how's the bidding environment in your chair?
We've seen, and we haven't bid a project of this size in this area in a little while, but projects that we have bid over the last, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, we've seen more bidders going after them. Some generally in this area, but not of this size. Other ones of, half this size in other areas, we've seen the same result. So it seems like there's a lot of interest. I think the swell that we had is starting to wrap up, and contractors are getting hungry for the next one so they can try to sustain that workload. So I'm pretty optimistic about that. I mean, we haven't seen any real downturn as far as that goes. And likewise, with that amount of interest, the numbers have been good. So the numbers have been as good as expected. So I think, especially for something of this duration, we should have pretty good participation in that, especially among subcontractors. You may only have a handful of bidders that could bid an overall project of this size, but they'll have lots of hungry subcontractors that will be bidding too. So, and actually in this case, the way it'll likely be packaged with Skillman, those will be kind of individual contracts anyway, so you get the benefit of that direct kind of head-to-head competition from them. So.
Too early to think about, or I hesitate to even ask in terms of what alternates we might consider in that process, or is it too early to ask that question?
We've discussed some. In fact, one of them shows up in these drawings, the wrestling room, what I call the wrestling multi-purpose room. The master plan shows what that building might look like without that room on there, and then we were going to bid that as an ad alternate to see what the cost increase is. So there could be some significant savings to not build that, although when you're building the building the first time, usually is when you get the best price for something like that. A lot of other alternates that we've discussed. So we've been very careful about getting just the right number and size of spaces. So there's not a lot of other things that, even the wrestling room is not something anybody that's involved, I don't think, wants to give up. So a lot of the other alternates would be things like materials, like terrazzo in the first floor hallways, which is kind of the bulletproof way to build the hallway the first time. Is you can bid alternates to that and kind of analyze, okay, the first cost is going to be this, but how much am I going to pay over the next 50 years to replace vinyl tile, for example, or something like that. So those are still things that we're talking about that aren't totally pinned down as alternates yet.
Any other questions?
It's good.
So on time, under budget.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, Andy, superintendent remarks.
Commitment to students. This is National School Counseling Week, so I just want to really extend some appreciation to our school counselors, social workers, their staffs, and all that they do to meet the social, emotional, academic, college and career needs of our students. Caring just completed recently our Riley Dance Marathon. That continues to be a success, a great program for our kids to participate in. The kids participate in beyond just the high school. It reaches down into our lower grades as well, and just continue to be proud of that. I do remember walking into the room years ago when I was at the high school, and the student kind of just bombarded me with, "We're going to do a Riley Dance Marathon." And here we are. So it's been owned by students. High expectations. We saw one of our robotics teams. We had a robotics competition a couple weeks ago, and I walked into that and continue to be amazed at the number of participants that are there, and the number of participants that we have there, all the way down to the elementary level. So it's exciting. Kids are excited about it. Competitive, fun. So I appreciate everyone's efforts there as well. Additionally, solo ensemble this past weekend, we have a lot of students do really well there, and a lot of effort goes into that, not just from their bar practices, but parents supporting those practices, and our staff and teachers. We just need to see our kids come out of that successful. By way of integrity, I did want to just give a thanks. I have, and I want to give it to you guys as well. To Ken Olson. We had a PE teacher take another job as the semester transitioned over, and Ken stepped in to cover that health and PE class for a while there, while also still trying to maintain his other responsibilities. And it was a team effort to fill that void, but he really kind of stepped out on a limb to do that, and really appreciate that. I think he had some fun as well, but it was neat. And then, by way of enjoyment, if you go home and watch the news tonight, you may see Webster Elementary on WSBT. They won the I Love to Read Challenge, and so they had a visit from them today, and got to be read to by one of their weather anchors. I don't recall the name right now. I'm so sorry, but anyway, congratulations to them, and it's a good coverage for us this evening. So, next meeting Tuesday, March 6th, 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Any questions for Amy? Back to the audience. Any questions on agenda items this evening?